Good afternoon students, welcome to the next lecture of airport design. In this we are going to learn about runway and taxiway design. Now in the geometric design of the runways, we are going to deal with runway orientation, basic runway length, runway configuration and runway geometrics. And in the taxiway we are going to deal with taxiway, exit taxiway, and the last half is nothing but a terminal design. Now some part already we have covered up in our last video lecture. We are going to discuss the further part. Once again we are going to repeat. Runway is a rectangular area on the airport surface prepared for the takeoff and landing of the aircraft. So whatever the pavement surface which has been there and utilized for the landing or takeoff of the aircraft, that particular portion we called it as a runway. An airport may have one or several runways which are sited, oriented and configured in a manner to provide for the safe and efficient use of airport under a variety of conditions. So we are having different runways. It may be a single runway, it may be several runways. If you are having international airports, we are having large number of runways, and for the domestic we are having limited number of runways. It may be 1, 2, 3, 4 up to that extent. What are the several factors? The several factors which affect the location, then orientation and the number of runways at an airport includes the local weather conditions. So whatever the temperature or the local conditions will affect the site for the runways, and again orientation of the runway, then particularly wind distribution and visibility, topography of the airport, surrounding area, the type and amount of air traffic to be serviced at the airport, and aircraft performance requirements and aircraft noise. Now already we have discussed this part in the previous lecture. The most important factor as far as runway design is considered is nothing but the wind distribution, that is windrows diagram of two categories, type 1 and 2, then topography of the airport and the amount of the air traffic which is being served by that particular airport. It is again essential for someone to know about the amount of traffic, how much amount of traffic which has been utilized. Runway orientation. The runways are always oriented in the direction of the prevailing winds. The reason behind this is to utilize the maximum force of the wind at the time of takeoff and landing of the aircraft, so that whenever there is the wind is blowing at a one particular direction, our thought should be like that the maximum wind we are going to utilize for the landing and takeoff purpose. Then following points need to be considered while orienting the runways. Now what are the different points which we are going to consider? Avoiding delay in landing, taxiing and takeoff operations. Then providing the shortest taxi distance possible from the terminal area to the ends of the runways. Then making provisions for the maximum taxiways so that the landing aircraft can leave the runway as quickly as possible to the terminal area. So taxiways should be located exactly near to the runways so that aircraft can travel from runway through the taxiway to the terminal or towards the apron or towards the hangar for repair and maintenance purpose or for any other purpose. Then data required for the runway orientation. Which data we require? We require map of an area and the contours. So for this we are going to plot the contours. Contour map should be there. Then wind data, in which we are going to deal with wind direction, that is tailwind direction, crosswind components and headwind direction, and fog characteristics. Now the most important in this is nothing but our crosswind component. Already we have discussed in our last lecture. International Civil Aviation Authority organization recommends maximum allowable crosswind component for the different field lengths, such as 1500 meter and over. The crosswind component should be maximum should be 37 kilometers per hour. Field length, if it is in between 1200 to 1499 meters, then crosswind component should be 24 kmph, and if it is less than 1200 meters, then crosswind component should be 19 kmph. Now wind coverage. The wind coverage of an airport is the percentage of time in a year during which the crosswind component remains within the limit or runway system is not restricted because of excessive crosswind. International Civil Aviation Organization recommends a minimum wind coverage of 95%. Once again, we are going to repeat what is this wind coverage. Wind coverage of an airport is the percentage of time in a year during which the crosswind component remains within the limit. So the percentage of time in a year during which crosswind components remains within the limit is nothing but the wind coverage, and we are going to recommending minimum wind coverage of 95%. Then calm period, already we have discussed this period for which the wind intensity remains below 6.4 kmph is nothing but our calm period. And then we are going to deal with windrose diagrams of the two categories. First is in which we are going to get information about duration and direction of the wind. Type 2, duration, direction and intensity of the wind. What is windrose diagram? Been explained in the last lecture for the reference. Now basic runway length. The Federal Aviation Agency procedures for estimating the runway length based on the following data. How one can determine the basic runway length? For this we require the designation of the critical aircraft, then the maximum takeoff weight of the critical aircraft at the airport, the airport elevation, then the mean daily maximum temperature for the hottest month of the airport, and last one, the maximum difference between in elevation along the runway center line. So this data we require for the basic runway length. Now what is this? We are going to discuss one by one. So before calculating the basic runway length, one must has to apply the corrections, and there are different methods or categories of this particular corrections. We are going to discuss one by one. First correction is correction for elevation. So as the elevation increases, the air density reduces. This in turn reduces the lift on the wings of the aircraft, and the aircraft requires greater ground speed before it can rise into the air. To achieve the greater speed, longer length of runway is required. So for the elevation, what is the category of the correction? The air density will get reduced, and this in turn reduces the lift on the wings of the aircraft. Automatically the aircraft requires the greater speed so that it can rise into the air, and for achieving this particular greater speed we require the longer length of runway. Now for this, our ICAO recommends that basic runway length should be increased at a rate of 7% per 300 meter rise in elevation above the mean sea level. Once again, very important for us. There is one problem to calculate the basic runway length by applying the corrections for 5 marks in our examination. So for correction for elevation, it includes we have to increase the basic runway length at a rate of 7% per 300 meter rise in elevation above the mean sea level. So how it has been there? It has been explained in the problems which we are going to discuss in our further lectures. Next correction for the temperature. The rise in airport reference temperature has the same effect as that of increase in elevation. So airport reference temperature is defined as monthly mean of average daily temperature. Once again I am going to repeat. The airport reference temperature is defined as monthly mean of average daily temperature for the hottest month of the year plus one third of the difference of temperature and monthly mean of maximum daily temperature. Once again, I am going to repeat it. Airport reference temperature is defined as monthly mean of average daily temperature. So I have to take the mean of average daily temperature for the hottest month of the year. So just one can take the example of month of May. So in the month of May, 30 days, 31 days we are having. So daily we have to count daily temperature and take the monthly mean of average daily temperature. Plus we have to add one third of the difference of this temperature and monthly mean of maximum daily temperature. So by this one can calculate the correction for the temperature. So airport reference temperature is calculated as monthly mean average daily temperature plus monthly mean of the maximum daily temperature minus the monthly mean of average daily temperature, and we have to divide it by 3, that is one third we are going to take the difference. So by this we can calculate. Then ICAO recommends that basic runway length after having been corrected for elevation should be further increased at a rate of 1% for every 1 degree rise of airport reference temperature above the standard atmospheric temperature at that elevation. The standard atmospheric temperature at the site can be determined by reducing the standard sea level temperature of 15 degree at a rate of 6.5 degree centigrade per 1000 meter rise in elevation. So by this we can calculate. Then next is check for total correction and elevation. ICAO further recommends that if the total correction for the elevation plus temperature exceeds 35% of the basic runway length, then this correction should then be further checked up by conducting specific studies at the site by the model test. Now next correction for the gradient. So steeper gradient results in greater consumption of energy, and as such longer length of runway is required to attain the desired ground speed. Federal Aviation Agency recommends that the runway length after being corrected for elevation and temperature should be further increased at a rate of 20% for every 1% of effective gradient. So we have to consider the gradient, how much it is been provided, and we have to increase at a rate of 20% for every 1% of effective gradient that has been given in this in the problems. So this is the runway length curve we are having. Now there are 3 different cases which we have to consider for basic runway length. Again this question will be for 5 marks. What are the 3 different cases? First is normal landing case. The aircraft should come to stop within 60% of landing distance, assuming that the pilot makes an approach at a proper speed and crosses the threshold of the runway at a height of 15 meter. The runway of the full strength is to be provided for the entire landing distance. Now if you are going to see this particular picture, we require 60% of landing distance at a height of 15 meter so that the particular aircraft will land easily. That is, we called it as normal landing. Then second condition, normal takeoff. The takeoff distance must be 115% of the actual distance that the aircraft uses to reach a height of 10.5 meters. So we require extra distance for the taking off. That how much it is? It requires a clear way at the end of runway in the direction of takeoff. This should not be less than 15 meter wide. The upward slope of the clear way from the end of runway shall not exceed 1.25%. Now again, if you are going to see this diagram, we will have some idea about this, how the normal takeoff should be there. For the normal takeoff, we require 115 times extra length, that is we require for the lift of the distance, and the particular clear way, that the particular slope of the clear way from the end of runway, it should not be more than 1.25%. So this is the second case, we called it as normal takeoff. So again, this picture will have some idea about this normal takeoff. The takeoff distance, that is TOD, should be 115 times longer than the demonstrated distance to clear obstacle. Then stopping in emergency. The next case, it require either a clear way or a stop way or both. What is stop way? It is used for decelerating the aircraft and bringing it to stop during the aborted takeoff. That means in case of the emergency, the aircraft has just started to take off but it has stopped because of some reasons. Then stopways, these are used for decelerating the aircraft and bringing it to a stop during the aborted takeoff. So whenever there is the takeoff operation is aborted, we are using the stopways, that is in emergency cases. Now what are the configurations for these runways? Now as I said earlier, in the domestic runways, number of runways are limited, but in case of international airports or international, we are having more number of runways. Now how it has been categorized? If you are going to see this picture, a single runway, if there a particular airport is having a single runway, then parallel runways exactly parallel to each other, then parallel runways but in a staggered manner, then L-shaped runways, then intersecting runways we are having. So this L indicates the landing from which the landing is going to happen, and TO stands for the takeoff. So entry point, that is taking a takeoff and landing part, they have mentioned. Next part which is important for the runway design is runway geometrics. Now in the runway geometrics, one must know the length of runway, then width of runway, side distance, then longitudinal and effective gradient, then rate of change of longitudinal gradient, then transverse gradient, and safety area. So these are the geometrics which we are going to consider as far as runway is there. So length and width of runway. Now as per ICAO classifications, we are having the 5 categories of the airports, that is being called as A type, B type, C type, D type and E type. Now what is the basic runway length, which is given in meters? For A category, the runway length should be more than 2100 meters, that is more than 2.1 kilometers. Then width of the runway is 45 meters. Now what is the maximum longitudinal gradient for this? It is given in percentage, that is 1.5% gradient should be there. Then category B, runway length maximum more than 2099 meters and minimum is 1500 meters. Runway width 45 meters and gradient is 1.5. For category C, that is maximum is around 1500 meters, minimum 900 meters length should be there. Width of the runway 30 meters and gradient is 1.5%. For D category, Runway length maximum is 900 meters, minimum is 750 meters, width of the runway is 22.5 meters, and gradient is 2%. For E category, E class airports, maximum runway length is 750 meters, minimum is 600 meters, width of the runway is 18 meters, and gradient is 2%. Now next parameter in geometrics is side distance. So no side distance restrictions as the longitudinal gradients for the runway are less. Adherence to the runway longitudinal gradient, standards provided adequate line of sight. So side distance as per the ICO code letter A, it is half runway length. Generally it is taken around half runway length. That side distance we are going to consider. Then longitudinal gradient. The longitudinal gradient increases in the required runway length. It also affects the aircraft performance, and there should be as flat as possible to avoid excessive engine thrust. So if there is more longitudinal gradient, engine require more thrust power to generate or to start. Then change in longitudinal gradient. The abrupt grade change may cause premature lift off of the aircraft during the takeoff. The change in gradient should be smooth through the provision of vertical curves. No vertical curve is required if the grade change is less than 0.4%. So again, change in the gradient, we have to consider these points. No vertical curve is required if the grade change is less than 0.4%. Then transverse gradient. It is provided for the quick disposal of the surface water. So if there is heavy rainfall, the runoff water should be drained out very easily. So for the quick disposal, we require the transverse gradient. The ponding of the water is hazardous for the aircraft operation. And minimum transfer slope is provided, which is on the runways 1%. So for the highways it is different, but for the runways minimum recommended transfer slope is 1%. For the rigid pavement it may be kept as low as 0.5% also. Then slope of 2% are permitted for the runways that serve smaller classes of the aircrafts, that is class C, D and E category. And for the runways, maximum transfer slope is 1.5%. For shoulder slopes, it is of 3 to 5% being recommended by ICAO. So this is about the transverse gradient. Then safety area. The safety area is an area which is cleared, drained and graded. It includes the structural pavement, shoulders on either side of the runway and the additional width. So for the runways also we are having the safety area which has been reserved. Then taxiway. Now what are these taxiways? Taxiways are nothing but the defined as a paths of on the airfield surface for taxiing of aircraft and are intended to provide a linkage between one part of the airfield. So taxiways are nothing but the connecting medium between the runways and the aprons, or it may be runways and the hangars. Then aircraft movement on the taxiways are essentially ground movements and are relatively slow. As we know, taxiways are the connecting mediums, so the speed, ultimately the speed will be slow and there is a ground movement of the aircrafts. Now what are the different categories of these taxiways? First category is apron taxiway. It is located on the periphery of an apron to provide uninterrupted taxiing of aircraft across the apron. Then dual parallel taxiway. The two parallel taxiways on which the aircraft can taxi in opposite directions. So in the middle part we are having runway, and on the both sides of the runway we are having the taxiway. So it is called as dual parallel taxiways. Then terminal taxiway. It is a portion of an apron intended to provide access to only aircraft stands and gate positions. So basically area near to the hangars is a terminal taxiway. Then taxiway geometrics. Now what are the points which we are going to consider for the taxiways? Length of the taxiway, it should be as short as possible. It will increase number of taxiways have to be provided along the runway. Then longitudinal gradient, the level taxiways are operationally more desirable. If gradient is steep and it affects fuel consumption. As per the ICO gradient of 3% for A and B types of airport and 1.5% for C, D and E types of airports. So this is for the taxiways. Then width of taxiway. The width of taxiway is lesser than runway as aircraft is not airborne and speeds are very small, relatively small on the taxiways. And there is not much variability in the maneuverability of the aircraft, and the nose of the aircraft follows the taxiway center line. So width of the taxiway will vary between 22.5 meters to 7.5 meters. Then side distance for these taxiways, as the speed of the aircraft on the taxiway is lower than the speed on the runway, the smaller value of the side distance will be sufficient on the taxiway. Now for A and B category, the side distance that we require is just 150 meters for A type. For B type it is 200 meters. For C, D and E type it is 300 meters we require. Next, turning radius. Now again we are having one problem on the taxiway, that is exit taxiways, and this particular part is important. The change in aircraft path is done by providing a horizontal curve. The design should be such that the aircraft can negotiate the curve without significantly reducing the speed. The relationship between the exit speeds and the radius of curve, which is given by R equals to V square divided by 125 F, where V is in kmph and F is nothing but coefficient of friction, which is taken as 0.13. So this is the relationship between the speed and radius of curve. Now this table gives us information about the aircraft speed and the radius of curves. If taxiing speed is 16 kmph, then radius of exit curve is 15 meters. Then for 32 kmph speed, radius of curve is 60 meters. For 48 kmph speed, radius is 135. So if you are going to see, as the speed increases, radius of the exit curve also goes on increasing, that we require longer distance for turning. So this graph again gives the same relation between radius of curvature and the entrance for the taxiways that we require. Then exit taxiways. What are these exit taxiways? The function of the exit taxiways or runoff turnoffs, as they are sometimes called, is to minimize the runway occupancy by landing the aircraft. So this function of the exit taxiways is to minimize runway occupancy by landing the aircraft. These exit taxiways can be placed at right angles to the runway or some other angle at the runway. When the angle is in order of 30 degree, the term high speed exit is often used to denote that it is designed for the higher speed than other exit taxiway configurations. So once again remember this, exit taxiways, their main function is to minimize the runway occupancy by the landing aircraft. So high speed taxiways, as I said earlier, this is the picture for the high speed taxiways. This is common exit taxiway configuration, exactly perpendicular to the runways. Now taxiway curvature and the standard dimension in the table gives us idea about this. If the radius of taxiway turn, length of lead to the fillet, the fillet radius for track link center line, So all these dimensions for the different airplane categories been illustrated in this particular table. Last point for this runway geometrics is the terminal area. What is terminal area? It is the portion of an airport other than the landing area. It serves as a focal point for the activities on the airport. Now what this terminal area includes? It includes terminal and operational buildings, vehicle parking area, then aircraft service hangars, facilities for the cargo handling and storage, and facilities for the passengers. Once again, please remember, this terminal area is other than the landing area, which includes terminal and other operational buildings, vehicle parking area, aircraft service hangars, facilities for cargo handling and storage, and facilities for the passengers. Now this figure will give us general airport layout we have discussed in the previous lecture. Now the terminal distribution system is being given vertical and horizontal. Now the next point is terminal building space requirement. Now how much space we require in our peak hours, that is for the passengers. For the ticket lobby, minimum area space required is 1 meter square during the peak hours for a single person per passenger, that is. So for one passenger we require 1 meter square area for ticket lobby. Then for baggage claim we require 1 meter square area. For departure launch we require 2 meter square area per passenger. Waiting rooms we require 1.5 meter square area per passenger. Then immigration we require 1 meter area per passenger. For the customs 3 meter square. For amenities 2 meter square. So this particular table will gives us the space requirement which is for the terminal buildings, and that has been calculated per meter square per in typical peak hour for a single passenger. So that's it for this particular lecture. In the next lecture we are going to discuss problems associated with this. Thank you.